Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2, where last episode we just brought up this contraption, and we're intending, of course, to bring it to Duna and land it there. The main concept is, of course, going to be that we need to get a second stage for it. So let's hop on back to the VAB, and I'm going to do this possibly from scratch. Probably from scratch. We need to rework this a fair amount. So let's just get this thing set up. I want to have a probe core in it for sure. We'll go for a large probe core. And we'll want to have some amount of power on it. Large probe cores have a reaction wheel, correct? Correct. We shouldn't need more than that. So that should be fine. I think a battery would be a good thing for it. So we should probably include medium only. I guess that's okay. We need to scale this down to small for the docking port. So that is reasonably fine. I would like to include some amount of solar panel. Non-retractable solar panels are probably acceptable, and we can just do something along the lines of that. Then we're going to need a way to operate this, right? And that is going to be a hydrogen tank. So this is all methalox here. We want a hydrogen tank. I'm going to go for a large hydrogen tank. I think we'll go for 2 of them. And then we're going to go for the large nuclear engine. So that is... those are methalox engines. I want the large hydrogen engine. Just like that. So that's the second stage that we're intending to attach up over here. So we're, of course, going to need a docking port for that. I believe we went with the regular old clampatron, like this. That'll be fine. And then we need a way to lift this. Because this isn't going to lift itself. Is it? No, it's not going to lift itself. Okay, I just wanted to double check that. These engines have a really weird power curve on them, but no, it's not going to do that. So a stack decoupler down here, and then we can lift that probably very, very easily. So this will be a methalox lifter, and we're going to go for probably just a couple of these guys. And then we would go with a, like, a Mammoth 2, rather. A Mammoth 2 down here. And what's that thrust to weight? Just as it is. 1.17. So that's not too bad. That is not too bad at all. I mean, we're going to need more power than that to lift this, for sure. But we might be able to get away with something like 2 SRBs rather than a huge shell. That would be really nice. So a couple of SRBs here. Where are SRBs at? They aren't under fuel tanks. They're under engines, of course. So we would grab a couple of Clydesdales, and we would just plop those on like this. What is that thrust to weight if we combine these together? This would, of course, have to go up here. 1.68? That's pretty decent thrust to weight there. Okay, so we can definitely work with that. I'm now going to move these guys down a little bit and then move this overall down a little bit. About like that. And then up top, we could definitely put in some aerodynamic nose cones. I believe medium is the correct size. Yep. Now we're going to want to strut this together. And remember, all this has to do is deliver it into low Kerbal orbit. So that should be fine. So these fire at the same time. These detach. This detaches up here. And then this can be merged together into a single stage. Just something like this. A very, very basic rocket. Cool. That should, in theory, do the trick. And let's save this in the workspace as, like, separated interplanetary stage. Something like that. Okay, let's put this out on the pad. Wait a sec. Wait a sec. I want to put on an antenna as well. Okay, so is there a difference in KSP2 between an antenna and a relay antenna? I'm not convinced that there is. So we probably want to include a fairly high gain antenna. So I'm wondering 130. So this is the same? Yeah. So we could just put this antenna on here. We don't need 2 of them. Only 1. Like that. And then once this deploys, it will look like that should be clear of our solar panel. Okay, looks good. So let's save this and put it out on the pad, and we'll see how this goes. So we just need to deliver this into low Kerbal orbit, somewhere around... I'm watching it sway right now. Somewhere around 100, 150 even would probably be fine. Our current vehicle, the FlySafe 29, is at like 250. So that should be reasonably fine. Let's just lift this thing off. We'll put it into up. There we go. It's a very simple rocket in comparison. I'm a little concerned about overheating components up here. We don't have much in terms of like fairing or anything like that up there. So that is a potential concern. But for the time being, we've not had too many issues with that, to be honest. As long as we get up to like an apoapsis of 20-ish kilometers before we head over, it's been absolutely fine. So that looks good. I'm wondering if we actually have enough delta V in this stage to get ourselves into orbit on this stage. I doubt it. That said, the hydrogen tanks definitely will be able to. They have even the thrust to weight to do it. So that should be reasonably okay. Let's move this over to prograde and then flip it here. Whoa, okay. That was exciting. Well, with that, we definitely don't have the thrust to weight, or rather the delta V to get into orbit here. So we might as well revert this back at this point, and with that in mind, that the aerodynamics like to do that, we can certainly change out that first stage and give ourselves more oomph there, and I would very much like to do that. So let's do that. Let's revert this back, get rid of the SRBs, and let's liquid fuel the two side boosters. I think we should be fine liquid fueling them, for sure, right? Pretty sure. If we did 2 tanks here, it's going to be pretty heavy, and we're not going to have a huge amount of thrust to weight. I want to see what that feels like, though. So we do this, merge these two together, like that. And what is this thrust to weight? 1.24? Yeah, that's about where I expected it to be. So we can ditch these tanks, and that puts it at 1.8. We can then put in this. 1.47? Slightly better. It's a little low on the thrust to weight from where I like to be, but it should do. And then we would run this, not that adapter. We would run this adapter, then this adapter, and then we put the little nose cones on. Like that. 1.39? I can work with 1.39. I mean, it's not phenomenal. That's for sure. Part relative and world relative here. Yeah, I want to be in rotate and translate, please. This is only rotate. How did I get switched over to rotate? That's interesting. I wanted to be in translate. Okay. I don't actually want to rotate this. I want to translate it. And how do we switch between them? I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter all that much. We can just select this part here. Wait a second. That's an what? That's not what undoing does. Okay, I guess we're gonna reload this. And we're gonna redo it over here. Okay, so I'm gonna go with slightly less fuel than what we had before. I'm gonna go with this fuel tank. I'm going to do 3 of them. This is actually the same amount of fuel we had before, isn't it? Yes, it is. I'm gonna go like this. And then we will adapt that down with fuel adapters. Like so. Then we're, of course, going to put an aerodynamic nose cone on here and then put these guys on. Something like that. Now we're in the correct mode here. Okay, sure. I'm not sure exactly how I pulled all that off, but, you know, whatever. We're going to do something along the lines of this. What's that thrust to weight? That is definitely less in terms of... It's better DV as well. Yeah, that's 1.33 thrust to weight. It's not fantastic on the thrust to weight front. But here's what we can do. We can also put in a pair of decouplers here. So I want to be... Where are we? Radial decouplers. There we go. I want to put in a pair of radial decouplers here, and we're going to also have a pair of SRBs. So those are just going to go out over here like so. And then I think we'll just duplicate this and do that. Okay, now we're going to want to move those down to about there or so. Maybe a little bit lower than that. Yeah, about there. Okay, now we're going to want to run fuel lines. So, we'll go into the fuel tank, and whoa, that was exciting. Fuel lines are going to run from the outside in all cases here. We have a small fuel tank here, and that will get consumed first. Now we're going to want to do struts, and we'll do strutting here, and here, and here, and here. Okay, so just something like that. Merge these together. This would, of course, go up here. 1.5 thrust to weight, it's better. It's certainly better, and we have a lot more power in this first stage. Okay, let's call that good. And let's see if this one likes to tumble as well. It'll probably be less prone to tumbling, if I had to guess. Okay, let's lift this thing off. Go to up. Perfect. Okay. So we are expecting this to be significantly less prone to tumbling. No doubt about that. And we've got a lot more fuel that we're carrying along. So we're going to have the same amount of fuel that we had on the pad once these burn off, which will take a little while, for sure. This Delta V is not the best in the world, but some of that Delta V is contained in here as well. In these two stages, stages 2 and 3. So that'll all be relatively fine. We're going to lose the SRBs eventually, but for now, I just want to keep punching up through the atmosphere with reasonable amounts of thrust to weight here. I still feel like Mammoth 2s are a little bit underpowered in this game. I feel like this really light payload should be pretty comfortably lifted by 3 Mammoth 2s. But it isn't, so here we are. I feel like they're slightly underpowered, but they're also the most powerful engine that we have, so there's that. So we're currently at an apoapsis of 70 kilometers. Let's put ourselves over to prograde and flip here, and let's see if we have that big tumble that we had before. Actually, yes. We almost had it under control. We did manage to get it under control. But it did still want to tumble. Okay. We can just... It's still trying to. We can just leave it here, though. Our apoapsis is high enough to just be locked to prograde for the moment. I am a little concerned about our docking port here. Okay. We lost the docking port, so that means that's a mission failure. We're going to have to revert that back, and that is indicative of the fact that we need a shield of some sort on that. So that's okay. It's a little bit surprising to me that that's necessary, but just based on the way KSP2 works. To be clear, in reality, it's absolutely necessary, so it's not all that surprising. We could put a small fairing on this, or we could just duplicate this, put it on like this, and then put a nose cone on here. That is the other option, and I think that's the option we're going to take. So we'll put an aerodynamic nose cone on here, and it'll be a large nose cone. So it's just going to go like that, and it will shield all of this stuff. Perfect. It'll be slightly heavier, but let's put that out there, and we should be good to go now. This should be the final launch of this, but that was not tremendously surprising. That was always a risk. This looks pretty dumb, I'm not gonna lie, but let's go. Lock it to up. And let's just make our way through this section a little bit faster again. So 4x time warp. And let's just get that apoapsis up to a reasonable number. So we're at 2 kilometers right now. 3 kilometers. 4. Okay. I'm not really liking our attitude as we lift up under warp there, so I'm just going to leave us here for now. 8 kilometers. 9. 10. So 10 kilometers to go here. And in fact, I'm going to take it up slightly higher. I think we've got some aerodynamic forces that I don't necessarily love. So I'm going to put us to an apoapsis of 25 before we change this over. So 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Cool. So we're going to move it less far, and there's less aerodynamic forces working on us at this point. Yeah, we got that under control much, much faster. So that's absolutely okay. We've got an apoapsis of 40 kilometers right now. So we're just going to burn here for a while. The SRBs are going to burn out eventually. But I kind of want to have us all the way over at the horizon at this point. Okay. So we're going to be over at the horizon now. SRBs are going to be leaving very shortly, letting us settle a bit. Goodbye, SRBs. Clean detach. Now I want to rotate so that these side tanks are horizontal to the ground. We're also drifting off our target point a fair amount here. Ooh. This really doesn't like this. Okay. Awkward aerodynamics are awkward right now. I guess that's fine. We do need to ditch these engines, which I would really like to have this tumble controlled first. But let's just get that out of there. Okay. There we go. We held on to those engines for a while longer than I would have liked to, but we're just going to hold attitude here until 100 kilometers. Okay, so we're at about 60 kilometers right now, and we've got a lot of DV left in this. More than enough DV to get into orbit. This was always the expectation. So that is fine. We want to actually be carrying this along with us. The plan is to dock up with this still attached, ideally. Of course, we don't have any RCS, so that's going to be a little bit awkward. But it should be reasonably fine. At least our tumble is under control at this point, and let's extend our solar panels, which are apparently not a thing up here. Cool. 96, 97, 98, 99, and 100 kilometers. Engine shutdown. Let's ditch our nose cone. There we go. I don't actually want to be controlling this vessel. There's no vessel control. That's just debris. And that's intended to always be debris. We're actually past our apoapsis. Hang on. I didn't realize that. Why isn't this engine activated? KSP2? Are you okay? Oh, we're paused. Hilarious. Okay. So we need to just be burning prograde right now. I didn't realize we were past our apoapsis, so that means we're not past our apoapsis. I was looking at ComSat 1. Okay. We're all good. That means that we just need to circularize here. So that'll be fine. That burn will be happening in, well, about here or so. That burn will be happening in about 2 minutes. Cool. We'll align for that burn. Our turning is not going to be the fastest in the world. And that's all absolutely okay. We're going to need to get aligned, and the actual docking process here is going to be interesting with this turn speed. No doubt about that. The actual docking process is going to be very, very interesting. Luckily for us, it's only 367 meters per second that we need to get this done, but that's fine. So we need to get this into orbit, and we need to find ourselves a reasonable rendezvous and park ourselves in a pretty close position to our target object. And then the target object is probably going to be the one that does the actual docking, is what I'm thinking right now. But we do lack RCS for fine-tuned corrections. So that's going to be interesting. But it shouldn't be a big deal. We're just about turned here. We still have another minute and a half to do the turn, so it's all looking good there. We're not going to have any timing issues. But yeah, I definitely got slightly confused by ComSat 1 here, which happens to be in a very similar orbit as to us. But that's fine, whatever. We just need to get into position for this turn within the next minute and 15 seconds. All is looking good. Yeah, we've got plenty of time for the turn. It is painfully slow. No doubt about it. But we knew that that would be the case. So let's just get this circularized, and then we are, of course, going to set FlySafe 29 here as our target. And we're 2.3 degrees off. We can change our inclination. That's not a big deal. We just want to get ourselves rendezvoused up there and get this docked together. We've got a lot of DV in this, of course, but that DV will go down somewhat once we're pushing that extremely heavy lander. Okay, we're pretty much in position for this burn, and let's warp forward. 30 seconds, 20, 10, and 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay. So we're just putting ourselves into orbit here. It's looking like the actual docking is going to be a next episode sort of thing. So we'll get that docked up, and then we are going to head out to Duna. And that should be absolutely fine. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. We are now officially in a reasonably circular orbit, so that looks good. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Andy McGar, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Tommy, Kintogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.